This is Fight Commentary Breakdowns. Jerry here, and I'm here with Chris. Chris is a viewer from Europe.
Hello.
He's moved around a little bit, but now he's in Spain, so we got a cool viewer in Spain right now. Chris, welcome.
Thank you, Jerry.
So,
Thank you for having me.
Tell me about your martial arts journey. When did you first start doing martial arts? When did you find Fight Commentary Breakdowns also?
Well, my martial arts journey started when I was 8 years old, and that was pretty much the film Enter the Dragon. I was like,
Enter the Dragon.
My father didn't know anything about martial arts. All he saw was the guys in the white pajamas doing karate. He didn't know that Bruce Lee was doing something else. That's where I started. They got me into karate, and I enjoyed it. And it was a good beginning, because I remember we actually did some sparring, even though I was like a white belt or a yellow belt when we first started. We actually did some sparring. It was like not full contact, but it was actually good to put it into like a competition. When we moved around, there was a bunch of other things that I tried. I did some judo for a while. Under this woman called Karen Briggs. She was an Olympic judo woman. I think she was a gold medalist at one point.
Wow.
For England, and she started teaching like locally to me. So I ended up going there for a bit, did a bit of judo, trying a whole bunch of different martial arts as I grew. Did some boxing, a lot of boxing. That was fun. Did some boxing at St. Paul's, which is in Hull. That's quite a well-known boxing academy. Is St. Paul's. There's a bunch of professional boxers that come from there. I don't know if you've heard of Luke Campbell. He came up through there. Excellent quality boxers, and there's a big academy. Lots of people go there. Then I moved down to the Isle of Wight. For a while, I didn't do any martial art, but then I met somebody else that was into it, and he told me about this place where he went to school, where they did Hungar. So I started learning the Hungar style, family style kung fu, which was okay. Then it's like when I moved back from the Isle of Wight to Hull, that's when I started doing Wing Chun. I did it for about 5 years, at least in Hull. And I became an assistant instructor and ended up teaching kids and stuff like that. And our master he's learned from like direct descendants of Ip Man. He's trained with like Ip Chun and Ip Ching and Samuel Kwok. They also did a bunch of other stuff. Like they did groundwork pretty much unheard of in Wing Chun. It was awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
All the time as well, I was pretty much studying other things. It's like there was capoeira that I was practicing when I was in Hull, because one of my friends that I made, a guy from Czechoslovakia, he practiced capoeira, and it was so good for fitness and strength and cardio, flexibility. Any chance I got to learn something new, like new martial art, I tried it. I've got books on Tai Chi, I've got books on Bagua, all kinds of different martial arts I was into trying.
For those of you who don't know, Chris is the one that sent me videos on both Glima and he sent me Kizi videos too. How did you come into contact with those?
At one time in Hull, I went to that's where it was based. It was based in Hull. So I went to one of their sessions. It was like a first time free. So one of my friends was going, and he said it was really good. So I was like, okay, I'll go and see what it's like. And this was after a few years of practicing Wing Chun. So I thought, well, I'll go and see what it's like. I could see that from a conditioning perspective, it was really good. One of the things I liked about it was because it was doing lots of stuff, and like it was always using your forearms and your elbows, and it was always cracking against your opponents and stuff. So it's like the physical conditioning was really good. But one of the favorite parts that I remember, and that I did like because it was more based in reality than other things, was we went into, it wasn't just on the mats in the floor. When we was doing some sparring and stuff, we'd take it into the different rooms within the actual gym itself. It was in the locker room, and it was like before I was fighting, he'd shout what a locker room's for, and then everybody shouted fighting. And so we ended up fighting and sparring in the locker rooms.
That's amazing.
And then we went into the bathroom, into the toilets, the bathroom to you guys, and just like the cubicles. And it was like, what are toilets for? And it was fighting.
Fighting.
And so he was fighting two people in one cubicle. So there's three people
Wow.
fighting. It was like, and it was crazy, but it was really good in that respect to sort of open your eyes to see what it was actually like.
Dude, I totally can picture it because a lot of the pensador kind of thing, right? If you're in a
Yeah, yeah.
very small enclosed space and there are multiple people coming at you, you're probably gonna either grapple or use your elbows and cover up. You're not gonna be swinging wild punches or even kicking. You don't wanna kick someone and then you're gonna get your leg grabbed because there's a small space and there's two people and you're taken down. So you gotta use your elbows and stuff. That's such an interesting perspective I've never thought about.
Yeah, exactly. I'd never thought of it before then. I was like, well, we're going into the toilet cubicles and having a fight in there. I was like, that is a really good real world application for what you've been practicing. I was like, yeah,
Neil.
that's a really good idea. I've heard of them doing it out in the car park before, like on the hard concrete in the car park, on the floor, fighting and stuff. It's like, yeah, okay.
I had an audience member that I want to bring on this channel soon. He's in Texas and he does judo, but he said there's a group of Chinese shuaijiao wrestlers who they train their shuaijiao, their kind of Chinese version of judo, although the lineage is different, of course. Judo and shuaijiao have analogous different lineages. It wasn't like one came from the other, but they do their shuaijiao on concrete. So the incentive for them is
Wow.
always land on their feet, right? They're never gonna try to break fall on concrete. So that changes
Mm-hmm.
how you throw, how you try to land, etc. And it's so interesting, the applications and how the moves and everything change when you're on a different surface.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
My question then is, you've had so many different interesting, cool, blessed experiences with martial arts. What have you kind of picked up and kind of just maintained in your kind of now that you teach? What have you taken from all the martial arts that you still teach, and what have you kind of tossed out as being okay, not essential for me right now?
Well, for me, I use the sort of philosophy of like Bruce Lee and of Jeet Kune Do in like you say, I take what's useful and reject what isn't. A lot of the stuff that I learned early on from like karate that rarely gets used, but there are some little things that do still get used. There's like a karate style punch to the torso, to the body, which is really effective because it's really powerful.
Mm-hmm.
But since I started doing MMA in Hull, there's an MMA gym there, which was really good. A guy who was amazing at Jujutsu, quality guys coming out of there now. It's really starting good. But I ended up going there to learn MMA because that was just after I used to play American football as well,
Mm-hmm.
and I quit American football because I liked my knees. And when you've got 11 guys diving at your knees,
Ouch.
it only takes one injury to knacker you up for life. So
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I ended up changing one dangerous sport for another and going MMA. But at least in MMA, I can tap out.
Yeah.
Did a lot of training there before. When I moved to Spain, that's when I carried on training MMA here.
Mm-hmm.
For me, MMA has been a really big influence and really helped a lot. Um, Especially the transition between grappling and jiu-jitsu and striking and like the long range striking of kickboxing and Thai boxing.
Mm-hmm.
Thai boxing mixes really well with Wing Chun because you have the change in the distances
Mm-hmm.
and the guard is very similar. Like Thai boxing, it's like here,
Mm-hmm.
and you can do this in Wing Chun. You can do this. It's like more of like an inviting people. It's like an opening because you can protect this.
Mm-hmm.
And with Wing Chun, as I started using that in um, MMA, it's become much smaller.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there are places where Wing Chun works, and there's a lot of places where it just doesn't. You struggle with the longer range punches, the hooks,
Yeah.
the straight punches. That's where I like the kickboxing, the Thai boxing as well. That works really well.
Yeah.
Um, and being able to transition between them is the key to making your fighting a lot better, is as far as I've found.
You do MMA and you also teach Wing Chun, which is so interesting. So it's like you're doing MMA, you also teach it at a Wing Chun school right now.
Well, it's not really a school. It's more private lessons. I have there's a room above a bar that I use to teach Wing Chun. It's not ideal, but it's what we got at the minute. I kind of do a mix when I teach the Wing Chun. I kind of do a mix of traditional and practical applications because I understand. Because I went to a competition, a stand-up like mixed martial arts competition. So there was all different styles doing stand-up, and that was where I wanted to test my Wing Chun. I wanted to see how good it was. And that's when I found the holes in it. Also, I found the holes in my training, my preparation. So that opened my eyes quite a lot. I was like, okay, X, Y, Z needs to be changed.
Did you eat a few hooks to the face and stuff? Tell me about kind of like certain the holes.
Hooks were the problem. They were the big one, and it's again because of the quite low guard that Wing Chun has, where you have your wusao just below your chin. You can take punches over the top. So, and yeah, that was something that I realized very briefly after the fight. I realized I was like, if I'd have adapted and started using kickboxing as well and moving about a lot more, because I was very stationary and static, very traditional Wing Chun. So
makes sense.
Although the one thing that I found did work once I got on entry, because I did like a tanda, and caught him flush with that, and he was against the ropes, and I was just chain punching him, and the chain punch worked a treat because he didn't know what to do. All he could do was block, was keep curled up. Instead of letting all the different martial arts and the different styles of fighting I know, the boxing, if I'd have let that, like, if I'd have been able to express myself instead of thinking, it would have been a totally different fight. I took a good look at where Wing Chun worked, where it didn't, and all the other things that come with like competition. Because I gassed out at the end of that. It was only 2 like 3-minute rounds, and I was absolutely knackered. I trained pretty hard for that, but I was like clearly not enough. But yeah, it was totally worth doing because it made me a better fighter in the long run.
Yeah, makes sense. It's just like so important, right? Not just pressure testing, but pressure testing with other styles, with not just another Wing Chun person, but some other type of kickboxing or something like that. So it's awesome that you did that, and you got to be like, all right, I'm not going to completely toss out Wing Chun, but there's definitely things I need to build a better foundation and then put the Wing Chun on top.
Exactly. This is why I enjoy watching Tony Ferguson. So he does the same. It's like we've actually got very similar backgrounds because I used to do breakdancing as well as Wing Chun, which Tony Ferguson also does. That helped a lot, and because I'd established this base, when I moved to Spain and started training and sparring with the guys in the gym, my only weaknesses were in the grappling and in the Jujutsu. Because I had like very little of that.
Yeah.
But stand up, when it came to sparring with the guys, like they could hardly touch me because I have so many different backgrounds in different martial arts. It got to the point where I was in sparring and I was just playing with people, just toying with people. There's only 1 or 2 guys in there that really posed any problems for me. And one of them was like 6 foot odd. He clearly had competition fights, but I liked fighting against him because he was challenging.
Yeah. Did you find your experience with hunger, with Hongjia, Kung Fu, did you feel like that helped you at all, or was that kind of more just, okay, I tried it, move on?
Pretty much the latter. I can't say I've ever used any of the Hungar techniques that I learned, mainly because it's the actual movements, especially from the forms that they teach you. I was like, it's never going to work because they have to do like like a strike with your hand like this, but you go down and you strike somebody in the ankle with your fingers.
Oh.
It's like, if you go down like that, you're going to get kneed in the head.
In the head, exactly.
So, yeah. Unfortunately, it looked good, but I couldn't see any practical applications to it.
Mm-hmm. When, let's say, a student is going to take a Wing Chun lesson from you, what would you teach them in the first class? Let's say, compared to when you first started taking Wing Chun, how is it different how you teach than how, let's say, you first learned?
I use this one technique, and it's a good like intro to teach people like to strike first. So when somebody gets in your face, to do take the initiative and strike before they do, instead of standing there arguing when you can clearly tell that somebody's isn't going to go away. Finger jabs to the eyes to get them to move their heads back, and as the head starts coming forward again to rebalance, you hit them with a nice hard punch on the chin, so that their head's coming forward as you punch them.
Yeah, that's really interesting, and it makes sense because you look at a lot of the clips of the Wing Chun guys that always get beat up by other styles. They're kind of trying to counterpunch. They're trying to like stand back, trying to counterpunch. And it's like, I think one of the things you're teaching people is like, no, be explosive about it, be aggressive about it. Don't feel like your sensitivity is gonna prevent them from hitting you, because in a real fight they're probably gonna hit you. So you hit first.
Yeah, exactly. In this is one of the things. There's a quote that was made by Amir Khan said after his very first professional boxing fight. British boxer, he got gold medal in the Olympics and then went professional. He became a world champion, but has not been one of the best. But he's still a good fighter. And after his first fight, in the interview, some guy said to him, "Do you think you took too many punches in that fight?" Or what he said after has stuck with me forever, because it's totally true and makes sense. He said, if you get in the shower, you're going to get wet. If you get in a fight, you're going to get hit. So it's accepting that and understanding that, getting past the fear of being hit is one of the things that's very important, because this is why I like sparring so much, because it gets rid of the fear and the flinching that people get. So when they first start, you throw a feint at them, people will flinch and like turn away or close their eyes.
Yep.
And getting that out of people is like so important for any kind of fighting. Having your eyes open.
Everyone's kind of inside right now, but what is your plan after this whole madness dies down? Will you keep training people in Wing Chun? Will you keep training people in other things? What do you think is going to be your plan next?
Want to get back into training MMA, because I haven't trained it for a while due to monetary issues, unfortunately. I'm going to look around at some of the gyms in my local town and some of the bit further out. If I can get classes, if I can like teach classes in Wing Chun at those, that could potentially pay for my training at the MMA gyms, so that I can teach and train at the same place.
How is Spain during this time? Is it pretty locked down too?
Oh yeah. It was initially everybody was locked down for 2 weeks initially, but they extended it by another 2 weeks.
Wow. Jeez.
Yeah, so we're on week 2 now, so 2 more weeks left. And all we can really do is plan for what comes after.
Yeah, exactly. I was suddenly curious about this, so I'm going to ask you this. People in Spain, how attuned are they to like martial arts? Do they love Jackie Chan? Does everyone do Taekwondo, or is it kind of like very few people do martial arts?
There's a few gyms, but from what I've experienced, they're never really packed. The MMA gym was packed on sparring nights sometimes. Sometimes there'd only be 4 of you. I think it's because I don't want to insult Spanish people, but from what I've experienced, they are a lot more about posturing. They're more talk than action. So they'll get in your face and give you a stick, but it's very rare that they'll actually commit to any kind of violence.
Mm-hmm.
An example is I can't think of any like any really good MMA fighters from Spain.
Mm-hmm.
I realise that there will be, and it's like I can't think of any Spanish world champion boxers.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they prefer the non-contact sports, which is why football's so popular.
Yeah, exactly. It makes sense. I mean, Spain's a very machismo culture, right? It's a very
Yeah,
macho
yeah,
culture. The guys, they want to be respected as men. And my experience with Spanish, I don't know many people from Spain, but the Spanish people I've met, they all seem like the men never seem to get along with me. It's really funny. Like, it's almost like they can tell that I can see through their BS. So again,
Mhm.
it's not an insult to Spanish culture at all because Spanish people are very intimidating, but also like and I'm the type of guy, if you try to intimidate me, I'm not gonna back down. So like I've had
Yeah,
many kind of tense moments with people from Spain. I'm just like, I don't like you, and I can tell you don't like me, and what are you gonna do about it? It's so interesting. So I know exactly kind of what you're saying. And again, like you said, it's not an insult to the Spanish culture, just a different culture. Do most people in Spain know of Bruce Lee and stuff like that?
I don't know. It's not the sort of thing that I've asked many
Mm-hmm.
people, because when I'm teaching people, I just concentrate on teaching them what I know.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm training with people, I'm just focusing on training. And I guess I never really sort of, outside of the gym, I never really hang out with them. So
Mm-hmm.
I imagine some people know about Bruce Lee, but it's getting
Mm-hmm.
to the point where, and everything, like his influence was so long ago that generations have passed now that
Yeah.
you can ask people, oh, do you know Bruce Lee? And they're like, who's Bruce Lee? I've heard that before, and I was shocked.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So it seems like since you also grew up in the UK, that probably the UK is more attuned to martial arts, right? Just because it's like got
Yeah,
a lot of Hong Kong people there. It's got a lot of more immigration. So probably more people in the UK know about boxing and different fighting styles and stuff like that.
yeah, definitely.
Mhm.
There are a
Wow.
bunch of mug dojos in the UK. I actually worked for one for a month or so. Yeah, it's about a month. They were called GKR Karate,
Mm-hmm.
and they were non-contact, so no literal application for anything there. Don't know if the term is in the States, but in the UK we call it canvassing.
Mm-hmm.
And we would basically would drop us off in an area, and we would go knocking on doors, house to house, trying to sign people up.
Wow.
Really very McDojo. So it didn't take me long to realize that and to go, no, this isn't for me. See you later.
That's kind of old school too, that they would send people out to, canvas. I guess the word in English, like in American English, would be like door to door or something, or
Yeah, yeah,
door knocking or something. Yeah, that's
yeah.
very old school. That how did the people you knocked on the doors react?
Mostly, I mean, we had a lot of people that just weren't interested. Some
Mm-hmm.
people were like, oh, okay, come on in, because they were thinking about the children, and that was
Mm-hmm.
again, they were a lot of the target was to aim for children
Mm-hmm.
because it's something that they can learn, that can improve their lives potentially.
Mm-hmm.
Which that's not untrue. The sad thing about it is it could give them that false confidence
Yeah.
that if they learn something and they don't practice against resisting opponents, it's not going to work.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I have to ask you this too, since you're in Spain and you were the one that sent me some videos about Kizzy. How big is Kizzy? Like, is it still relevant in Spain?
In Spain, I've not heard the name mentioned.
Interesting.
Yeah, the only place that I knew of it was in Hull, where I used to
Mm-hmm.
live, and I never heard much of it even when it was there. So
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's so interesting. How certain martial arts get more popular abroad than where it originated.
yeah,
Yeah. I assume Sistema, Russian Sistema is the same thing. Like Sistema is so big in places like the UK and in America, but like very few Russians I think really care about Sistema.
yeah,
In a way, Kung Fu's the same. I think in some ways Kung Fu is more big if you count the number of people in China practicing Kung Fu versus the people in non-Chinese countries practicing Kung Fu, there's probably more non-Chinese Kung Fu practitioners than there are Kung Fu practitioners. That's another reason why Xu Xiaodong can never find like a decent Kung Fu practitioner to fight, because, you know, very few Chinese people even practice Kung Fu. Most of them, if they're going to do martial arts, are probably going to do Taekwondo, because Taekwondo is very big in China. Or now with MMA, they're going to probably do more MMA related kickboxing, Muay Thai type of martial arts.
MMA has really showed the flaws for each of the more traditional martial arts, and that's why, you know, we see it time and time again where it's an MMA practitioner against a traditional martial artist, and they just take them down and either ground and pound them or make them tap. It's just things that they don't train. It's like, well, I can beat you this way. I don't have to fight you standing up.
For those of you watching, this was Chris, and I will link his channel. He has a channel that I can link, and then a lot of the stuff we talked about, I'll put a link there too, so you guys can do your own research. And
well, I mean, you don't need to link my channel because
there's nothing fine.
Martial arts related on there. So.
Okay, cool. Just the offer's there, but that's cool if you don't want the channel linked. And guys, if you have any questions feel free to put it in the comments, and I can bring Chris back in the future. We can answer some of your questions, etc. And yeah, this is a really cool conversation. I love, you know, talking to people because everyone's journey is different, and Chris's journey is so unique that he's tried so many things. And so he loves Wing Chun, but he also trains in MMA. So it's always great to see people like that. Like one day when I interviewed Silala, also the Taiwanese Wing Chun fighter, I'm sure he's probably had a similar journey. Like his Wing Chun doesn't look exactly like your standard Ip Man Wing Chun, but you know he's trying to adapt it too. So it's pretty cool to hear stories like this.
Thanks for having me on, Jerry. It's been nice.
Absolutely. Okay, guys. So, guys, this is Chris. I will stop recording now. But for everyone else, leave your comments and leave your questions, etc. for Chris. So, fight commentary breakdowns out. Thank you, Chris.